Thank you for that musical intro, Tasi. We definitely want to invite you all to turn your cameras on if that's something you're comfortable with and, feel like you can do, just because the idea, the vibe for tonight is really about connecting, getting good energy from each other, really being supportive around applying for this grant. And it's a little bit easier to do when we can see your beautiful faces. We'll respect your choice, but if you can, that would be super helpful. I'm just going to kick it off very, very briefly because I want to make sure we get the full amount of time together to say I'm Trisha Creason Valencia. I'm a documentary filmmaker and I'm co-host of this meeting because I'm one of the members of the Leigh Weimers Emerging Artists Committee. And we really felt like it would be important to give a chance for folks that maybe had not done this sort of application before, or even those who have, to kind of get more clarity on what is required to apply for this, and also just to meet each other, because artists can be so siloed and isolated. So this is one of a series of things we want to try to do to help you all get to know each other and support each other's work. So we really want to thank you for coming. And I think you're going to find that it's really helpful because you are going to get to learn alongside and get the amazing energy from Tasi Alabastro, who is going to briefly in a minute has a whole walkout video that he's going to share with you. But just to give you a tiny bit of context, he won the award in 2019. He's a very well-known actor. He does all sorts of multimedia production work. And one of his things that he's really gifted at is meeting facilitation, public speaking, this sort of thing. So he actually came to the committee and offered to do this. And we were like, yes, fantastic idea. So he is going to be your primary host for the evening. I will watch the chat and I will help moderate in that way. If there's anything that I want to pop up and mention to Tasi, or if you have any direct questions for me or for Jeremy Harris, who's also on the call and is another member of the committee, we can be looking at that stuff in the chat as well. But I'm really going to pass it over to Tasi to let him roll out.
Everybody, hello. Hi. I realized that after playing that, I was like, wow, that seems super gratuitous. And like, what a thank you, firstly, to Trisha for the warm greetings and getting everybody in here. Hi, everyone. If we've not met in person or digital, my name is Tasi. But it's not about me, it's about you. And I'm so happy that you carved out time this evening in your day to share with us. So, my expectation tonight really is that it's a relaxed environment and that we can have a conversation and really, hopefully you can leave here feeling more supplied with tools that you might need, or just a little bit of confidence boost in applying for the Leigh Weimers Emerging Artist Award, whether it's for yourself or if it's for someone else that maybe you're helping out down the road, paying it forward. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're a multi-year applicant, which I was, welcome as well. Hopefully everyone gets something out of today, and we'll try to maximize our hour together. Again, just to reiterate, if you have any questions that come up during and at any point, and I'm not addressing them right away, you can shoot them to Trisha. We'll be moderating that, and we'll circle back. And so thank you once again to also the Rotary for offering the space to be able to do this. All right, so there's a lot to go over, and what I would like to do first is, well, let me just say this. Let's take a deep breath in, because I think I need it right now. On the count of 3, we're just going to take one deep breath in. Think about what your day was today. And then on the exhale, you're just going to leave it, by the mouse pad, or leave it at the other desk, or leave it at the door. You can get back to it later. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. And let it out. If you need to take another one, go for it. All right, shake it out. All right, we're here, y'all. Seriously, this is amazing. What a dream come true. I think it's really important that as we look around the room, we really, at least how I like to look at it, I really like to celebrate camaraderie over competition. And we're all coming from different backgrounds, how we got to where we are now affects how we think about the value of our art and our artistry. And, taking the moment to survey the land, as it were, and see who's here with us, adjacent to us. It's really important to make that perspective shift of like, we're in this together. And sometimes that can be really difficult because, as Tricia had mentioned earlier, sometimes we live very siloed, career lanes, right? And maybe we run into each other at some event, but we all know that we bring masks to those things. And that's okay. That's just how we are. But I want to take this moment right now to just, you look around the room, open up your participants panel and go, wow, look at all these people. Maybe I've seen some of these people on a list somewhere. Maybe I've seen them. I was at a First Friday thing, or I was attending a performance, or there was a track on the radio and that's so-and-so's track. That's amazing. We're here to celebrate each other. Something that Alicia and anyone else that's with Red Ladder Theater Company is going to really enjoy this. The thing I've adopted is there's one rule, and that's there's no disrespect, right? So what that means, it means so many different things, but if you need to leave early, that's fine. You don't have to explain yourself. If you feel like making a stink face or something, you look. But I just want to say, before we really dive in, that you being here and you being prepared is enough. And you, as you are in your artistry, is enough. And applying for grants and applying for anything can be incredibly challenging because you're faced with such a long time before you hear back from anything, and if it doesn't go in your favor, it could demoralize you. When that news reaches you, you don't know where you are in your life at that point, and you may not have the personal support system or the preparedness for that. So just want to put that in your sphere. Now, for some of you, it may be your first time coming across the Leigh Weimers, and if you're not sure who Leigh Weimers is or was, just a quick brief sentence. Leigh Weimers was a community champion of the arts, and he wrote a column for the Mercury News, and was I think champion is really champion of art, the artistry in San Jose, and you can read all about it on the website. Which, if you haven't, I encourage you spend some time just really looking at that website and getting to know who's there. Because there's also a tab where you can see all the past recipients, which is incredibly helpful in identifying like, oh, that person is in my field, just being able to reach out to someone and know that you're not alone, right? We never are. I also want to start by saying, take a moment and think about the word emerging and what that means for you at this point in your life. I think having a grasp of what that word is for you and how that is framed in your mind will offer you tools to be able to weather kind of the proverbial storm of like, okay, man, it was my year. I think I had all these things like I had this list of X exhibitions, or I had 3 shows that I was the lead of, or I've had 10,000 plays on Spotify or something. And listen, we're all emerging in some way. So having a personal guidepost of where that is for you is super, super important. Now I want to go, in the prompt on the Eventbrite, I had asked, come prepared with something you can share today. Now, there's no expectation for you to do that, but as we are working on this together, I want to just say popcorn style, in one or two sentences, what does emerging mean to you as an artist? I'll start. At least I'll start when I had applied for it, okay? In a sentence, I don't know shit when I'm doing my art. I'm always looking for when I'm most afraid. That for me was like kind of a motivating factor when I was applying. Like, what does emerging mean for me? Because I felt so steeped in like what I was already doing, having a sentence to get myself out of that frame of mind and look at myself from a different angle. And that was a humbling experience for me. It's like, I don't know anything. I really don't. I'm asking questions daily with my peers and my colleagues, and realizing, the age-old adage of the more I know, the more I learn, the less I know. So I think it applies here. So real quick, popcorn style, if anyone would like to share just a sentence of what emerging means for them at this time in their lives, please feel free. Let's hear it. Areli, hey.
Hola.
Hola.
Hi, everyone. Areli Cardenas, pronoun she, her. I'm a visual artist, but I'm going to piggyback off what you're saying because I don't know what the hell I'm doing either. I am a self-taught visual artist, and what's been really amazing, I've been on the First Friday scene. I want to say going, since 2020 when the world started opening up a little bit, and picking the brains of my now peers that went to art school. They're art teachers. They're out here doing murals, and essentially even learning business aspect, just everything from them. So honestly, I've been emerging with the community that I've been building just by making connections with people. So that's how I would describe emerging.
Nice. Emerging together.
Absolutely.
Alicia, what's up?
Yeah. Hey, team.
Hey.
Everyone, I'm Alicia. I use she, her pronouns. For me, I think emerging right now is like transformation. The pandemic threw wrenches and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think before then, I was like, I know what kind of artist I am. And then suddenly I had no idea. And so I think for me, as an emerging artist, I am transforming into a new version of an artist as myself, and trying things that maybe I didn't think I would try before this Ponder replay happened, and just dipping my toe in the water and then also maybe jumping in.
There you go. Finding where you're least comfortable. Alicia.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I use they, them pronouns. And I think for me, it's about, I've been doing theater for a little while now on the community level. And I think I've finally been like, oh, I think I'm not just lucking into stuff. I might actually be good at this, and dropping the imposter syndrome and trying to, crawl my way out of that and be like, no, actually, I should invest in myself. This is something I can take seriously. So for me, that's what emerging means for me right now.
Well said. Yeah, there's some common threads here, right? Like the sense of transition from one stage of your life, and whether the value of that transition is going to fluctuate for everyone. Doing a show now is going to mean something different from doing a show next year. Oh, Robert. Hey, what's up?
What's up? My name's Robert Parra. I go by he, his, him. I would say emerging to me is, what I thought and in the moment right now is taking the leap of faith, which I thought 4 years ago when creatives had to push themselves virtually. I thought I was taking the leap of faith, but then I checked myself this year, and just also by my peers, mentoring them, and then kind of checking myself wait a minute, if I'm telling them they need to do this, why am I not doing it? It was kind of mirroring myself. I can't expect them to do this, but yeah, I'm not doing it myself. So
This is Betty. I use she and they pronouns. And for me, emerging means that I'm kind of changing the way I approach my artistic practice, that I'm beginning to see it as less of making something like a product and more about just every day making interesting and meaningful choices with the people around me every moment, just kind of as a way of life.
I love that, as a way of life. Yeah, because sometimes we get buried in our own work and these projects tend to pile up.
Hi, I'm new here. I'm Ariel. It's nice to see everybody. Hi, everybody. Great group. I love the feeling of this group. I'm Ariel. I'm Ariel. I'm an artist. I don't know what category to put myself in. I would say multidisciplinary. I'm a healing artist. And during the shutdown, when I couldn't do healing, I do sound healing, energy healing. And I'm a serial band leader and musician, performance artist. I'm really here because to me, emerging means finally putting my passion first instead of how can I make money doing this or really trying to finagle. Even my sound healing was a way that I could get my music in with my healing work. Always trying to be aware and to find the connections and see where the universe takes me with my creativity. But a friend of mine prompted me to join you all here this evening and really reminded me, COVID really reminded me how much I love to perform and how that's really what I'm here about. Everything that I do has something to do with self-expression or voice or vibration, and I want to explore that more. I really love to perform and sing. I'm without a band right now, and that puts me at a handicap, I feel. But it also is kind of interesting because I get to present myself as a vocalist or as an artist for the first time instead of representing a band or a group. It's a different perspective, and I'm excited. So to me, that emerging means putting the passion first.
That's
Sorry,
great.
That's a long-winded answer, but I just had to get that out because it was percolating in there. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, everybody. And I think you bring up a really great point about like perspective shifts. So the next part I want to get into really is about your statement and what you've written and some of the pitfalls that just circling back to what I had mentioned earlier, some of the pitfalls that we encounter in our statement is that we tend to speak as if the other person already knows what we're doing because we are so invested in what we do that it's everything around us, right? As opposed to being a guide to your own work and your own personhood within that work. One of the tools that I like to do is called the 5x5 shift. I don't think it's anywhere online. I just made it up, but it worked for me because you can ask me on a coffee date or something, I'll tell you. The 5x5 shift is this. I've tried for myself. Put yourself in your shoes from 5 years ago, the person you were, the artist that you were 5 years ago, and write about yourself from who you understand yourself currently. Meaning Tasi from 5 years ago interviews Tasi now and gets some information. Who are you as an artist? And answer that for yourself from 5 years ago. The other 5 is 5 years in the future. The person you might be down the road. Asking yourself who you are now. And the reason it's constructed that way, at least how it worked for me, is that it allowed me an opportunity to really identify the deepest pulse of who I am and the things that I'm going through as a person and how that reflects into my art. Now you can go the extra way if you want to go 10 by 10, sure. But 5 is a good start, especially since 5 past would encompass the pandemic, right? And that's a huge shift, not just in ourselves, but worldwide. So it's an important question to ask yourself. So while I don't have any specific questions that you can ask yourself, because I think that's a very deeply personal thing, some of the things that I asked myself was, are you healthy? Physically, are you healthy? And I think one of the gems that I took from that exercise for myself, and I might have tweeted it somewhere, it's I'm proud that I have been able to create a safe space for my child, my inner child. So that sentence was the result of that exercise for me. And that's such a divine gift for myself. Like, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. It makes I think it gives you a good perspective shift on how you examine your work samples, which is a huge thing with this particular award. As you may have already noticed, you only get 1,000 words in the submission. So your portfolio and how you curate that, it weighs a lot. So it really has to, I think it's actually listed there. Let your samples speak for you, or?
Yeah, so I have been on this committee for about 7 years, and so nobody gets shy, but I've also served on the jury all that time. So I've seen a lot of applications. I'm a pianist, and I've done decades of jazz and musical theater and composition. So I'm not just a Rotarian. Found a side job. This is my life. So
Beautiful.
We really we feel in general. I think I can't speak for everyone on the jury, but I think there's a consensus that that the art that you show in your samples, and this is not just your samples, this is all art, it should be self-contained. It should speak for yourself. It should speak for itself. You do not need to explain your art in your statement, but talk about your life and your evolution and your emergence, and we will see the results of that in your art. So the art should be self-explanatory.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, something that I wrote for myself here that I've always found helpful when approaching these opportunities is story given, not story driven in how you write, right? Like, so if you're a returning applicant, for example, you may want to examine your statement and say, what are the words here that feel like I haven't achieved that yet? For example, I hope to do this. I hope to do that. I hope to do this. I'm looking forward to doing that. You're not there yet, right? You're hoping to. So really have a sense of agency about what you do have, what you are given to yourself. So what is it that you're doing now that is a result of your journey? And what is the story? What is the nugget story? Because you don't have a lot of words, but you can get away with a sentence, because when you look at that in conjunction with the samples, there should be some synergy, right? When you think about movies, why do movies work? Because of how it's edited. The best example I can give you is a person looking down at a bowl of cereal, and you edit that and you put a dog looking at it. It's a different story. Same bowl of cereal, you take the dog out, you put a man looking at it, different story. So it's that idea of like, what's the context? What's the nugget of your story that you can offer in the statement that supports all the other aspects of it? So you're not wasting words on, I really want to do this, or I would flourish if this, because these are hypotheticals, and you're done emerged at that point, right? So you're in this transition phase. Again, I'm going to circle back. It's incredibly hard to do when you're writing about yourself, knowing that it's not guaranteed that you're going to be a recipient of this year. For me, I've always imagined my career as just a lifelong endeavor. And sometimes if you had a swimming pool, you're not going to be in that pool every day. I guarantee you. Sometimes you'll wade in the shallow. Sometimes you'll dive on a deep end. Sometimes you'll throw your partner in, whatever it might be. It's that sense of nothing's guaranteed, but what you can count on as you curate, such an important word, as you curate your work, is you're creating a guidepost for yourself. I just want to share with you guys. So Jeremy sent this great little guide. Really important to look at this right here. Who are the jurors this year? Make a note of wow, they really do come from so many different places. So super important to just look at that and be cognizant of as you're writing your statement, really think to yourself, okay, if I was in this person's shoes, what would I want to see that helps explain who I am? I'll speak for myself as a performing artist. If I were to look at this, little Lisa Millette, okay, I could show her one image and she would get the entire picture of, I wouldn't need anything more. But if I, for example, I did Nancy here, who's in quilts and textiles. That's less about what it is exactly that I'm doing within the art, but more about how am I moving through this art and what the impact is me as an artist and how that ripples out into the community. And then let's get into the application process here. There's a $10 entry fee. I think you can write that off on your taxes next year. How you use that's going to be up to you. When I applied, I didn't maximize that as far as putting everything on there. But what I did have is, I'll pull it up right now. Let me ask you guys a question. Would it be helpful to see what I had written?
Yes.
Okay. Bless. We'll start at the base. One of the important things to do is go to, of course, my profile. But in my portfolio, what you have to know about Cafe is it doesn't just serve the Rotary here. It's a national thing. So you'll actually be able to find different grants in different avenues in different places. So the importance of ad media is you can then start curating your work so that it's, okay, well, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, for example, but there's a music grant that really speaks to me. And if you had your samples already uploaded, you could apply that towards that grant. So think of this, my portfolio, as exactly that. It's where you store all the things that you speak to you as an artist and that you can use. So for me, I'm only using 36 out of 100, and I only submitted like half of that, I think. So my Cafe entries, you can see here, when I applied in 2019, I was not invited to the party, but that's okay. So let's review if this is going to be helpful for you, what I had submitted for myself here. Now, as a performing artist, might be easier to come around to doing that. I did photos from the theater, Red Ladder Theater Company, in which we facilitate workshops in marginalized communities. So it really spoke to me as who I am. It really is part of my DNA at this point, right, Alicia? To some degree, very little. And then I'd really try to locate the most high quality images I can find, because when you think about uploading and sending, if you can put yourself in a position where you can think, okay, this is the best that I can offer today. How can I make the best better? Let's say I have 20 really good photos. Okay, your job as an artist has always been to edit and curate your own work in some degree. So it's a great exercise of going, all right, let me find one stellar image from this 10. If you are lost in that process, go back to your statement. Ask your statement. What do you want to see, statement? That's the reason why it's so important to write things down. When you add media and you select image, it'll tell you what the file sizes are.
Separately there. Yeah. I accumulated a little file because I get a lot of queries from artists saying, what are my limits?
Sure.
You're not inside the application yet, which actually helps you know. So you don't need to go into the application, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Something to note also, and Jeremy, chime in if this is accurate or I guess not accurate, they will not be checking anything that's external. So if you do have like a Flickr account or something and you want to use your images from Flickr, you still have to upload it here on the Cafe website separately and not as an external link. So things like SoundCloud, Flickr, none of that. It has to come drawn directly from the upload into Cafe's website.
That is correct. That is correct. We want to really, really, really emphasize that, y'all.
Yeah.
I've sat on a lot of juries and it's really irritating when people don't follow the really simple instruction. So show them you can do that.
Yeah. Don't include a YouTube link to a 90-minute movie. We're not going to look at that.
Unless it's Lord of the Rings, send it to me. I'll watch it. Let's move on.
You have something in the chat from Alicia. I found uploading photos of productions a bit confusing as a performing artist because it asks you for required details, depth, units, etc., as if it's a visual piece you created like visual art. What do you suggest?
I think I omitted that for myself as production because I think it's coming from I think some of these requirements, and Jeremy, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just sort of my assumption and observation. I think it's really coming from a, let's just go the extra mile and include that because most of our people that might be applying are visual artists. So, I mean, that was my guess at it. And so I'm like, listen, none of the information I will offer will offer anything from a performing arts perspective. So I think as far as,
that's my impression too. I don't think all those details are required for you to be able to submit.
A good way to think about it is if you were on the jury panel, right? And you were to look at an image that maybe been scanned, you want to get a sense of scale on that, right? So you need some kind of reference. Whereas if you're doing performing arts photos, the scale's there for you with the set and the stage and whatever it might be, right? Like inanimate objects. That's how I sort of process that. I'm like, okay, why is the numbers there? Oh, right. Because if I was looking at an abstract painting, I wouldn't know how large it could be like a thumbnail.
Alicia's saying that it is required. She could not omit when she uploaded, and that's also being backed up by the other Alicia. So can we decide here and now? Is it possible for those of you that have tried to write NA, like something like not applicable?
Just zero?
Keep rolling.
I think I put zero.
Because if we tell Jeremy, he can tell the rest of the jury and we'll know we're good.
Price. NA. Yeah, I did. See 0 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a solution, y'all, and share with your friends so that people don't get stuck.
What I would like to do is share just some artist statements here. I think maybe it might be helpful, maybe it won't, but here's my 2018 statement and my 2019. Okay, I'll just read it along. For as long as I can remember, performing arts always engaged my imagination in meaningful ways. And then some bit about where I'm from. In addition, auditioning and freelancing, I work with Red Ladder, providing theater arts to incarcerated men and women in California state prisons. Okay, that's what I was doing. The biggest jump that I can identify with these two, I guess is when you get it or you're looking at it, is that I didn't focus so much on like that narrative structure of like the connective tissue between paragraphs. For example, being a part of the group has afforded me an opportunity to bridge communities that would not normally have performing arts exposure. And I jumped to, my training has come in many forms, but I think if an English teacher read that, they'd be like, wait, what? It'd be a whiplash. But I think, not to sound too punk, but 2019, I was like, fuck it, I'll own this. This is me. And I'll cut out as many words as I can to get to the point. I think that was it. I was like, let me just figure out how to get to the point without like, I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I think that's what it was. I wasn't trying to be like, I think it's that, and this is an ongoing thing, right? Like there are gatekeepers everywhere. And one of the first one is in your mind. So is yourself, right? You're the harshest critique. So for me, it was like, all right, well, what are the words of being assertive and dedicated to my craft and mindful of the community I serve? So there were a lot of things that went into like, how do I edit this? Which very much felt like, hi, everybody. I'm this guy and I do this. To, hey, I'm doing this right now. I got time to write this one thing and I got to get back to doing that thing I was doing. Right? It's like value the time the jurors have and value the time that you have.
I just want to note that the way you wrote about being from Samoa in the first one and the second one it's vastly different and so much more impactful in the second one. It's like you say, you're really deep and sort of like the clarity and the emotion, and we get a really real sense of who you are in the language that you use. So the back-to-back is very, very helpful for me to see the way you evolved as a writer.
And I think that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about story given versus story driven, right? Like this first one, if I was writing something for my website, it would be a great way to start because I can continue. This one, I'm in and out because that's what was given to me. That's what I got. Here it is, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever that means to you, to adopt that mentality to then finesse your writing. And, for me, I have a partner who is an English major. So she understood me really well. She's like, I'm not, this is your voice, but here's just maybe one or two like grammatical tweaks so that it flowed in some sense. So find that for yourself, whoever that might be in your community. Not Not to say you couldn't do it, because I think one of the things we're really pushing for is like, listen, English is not everyone's first language. All right. So what are the ways that we can continue to create access to that? Does your intent land? That's super important. Does your intent land?
Betty
Yep.
says, back on the topic of work samples, as a multidisciplinary artist, I'm struggling with how to best present my social practice-based projects, such as community collaborative art pieces I organize that includes multiple mediums. I'm wondering if a collage image with descriptions in the image would work, but I don't know if having too much text in a work sample is okay. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. I had this discussion about collages. I think collages are fine. Just obviously make sure that they're in the same JPEG and whatever the file requirements are to get them uploaded. I think it is also that thing, Betty, of continue to examine that work that you're adding into the collage that in itself is also telling a story, right? So that it's not like, well, this is a lot of data for a juror to look through, and then they have to like look through your other stuff. So I want to say err on the side of like less is more, and that as try to find the most impactful angle for what you're trying to achieve or what you're doing currently. I don't know if that's super helpful, but for me, you know, I came in at it as also multidisciplinary at one point. And for me, I had to really like trim it down. Like what at the core is fueling this into the multidisciplinary aspect of it. Right? Excuse me. And yeah. Also, you know, this is just for anyone that's here, not in the recording. If you want to reach out later, you are more than welcome to. I can't guarantee I'll get back to you right away. There are still 20 odd days until deadline. What would be really great is if you complete the deadline, complete your application a week and a half before your deadline, sleep on it a day or two, and revisit it. And that's a good practice for that, because you might discover something new, or maybe there's something that didn't work for you and you're not having to like really think about, oh man, it's due today or it's due in 5 minutes.
Just to clarify, there was another question from Robert asking if the resume needs to be artist focused or a general resume, especially if someone is emerging, and Jeremy answered in brief, there is no requirement to include a resume. So Robert, is that what you wanted to know? Is there something? Yeah, you're good. Okay.
All right, let's look at another sample here real quick. This is from a musician, name omitted. Let's see, make sure that you guys can see this.
All right.
This one had a couple more paragraphs. It's still within the world though. I make music for emotional healing and freedom.
I have a question. The printer that we have.
I make music for emotional healing and the freedom that comes with it, something I need. And by sharing, I extend that to your hearts as well. Like that first sentence, let's look at all of them here. They're really going to stand out. My first memories of loving the arts are literally from toddlerhood. Oh, story. Ji Young-yoon took a winding road to becoming a painter. Oh, what's the winding road? And there's a little bit of that, right? So that's kind of the emphasis. George, my name is George. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. So it's not multi, it's inter, so within, right? I work professionally as an actor, musician, sound. So this one is closer resembles something that you would, you know, see in like a written statement of like, okay, there is a design to the paragraph. Jeffrey's a little different because Jeffrey was a recipient before the word count went down to 1,000. So he had a lot more. He had a lot more to say. Coincidentally, he's a writer. So, hey, how about that? But yeah, I believe in the power of people. Okay. And last year, one of last year's recipient, David Morales, aka actor poet, another musician. As an artist, I seek to shine a light on tough subjects that are not customarily represented in everyday media. And when you look at each one of these, I'm sorry, I don't have actual samples from them necessarily, but when you look at the samples that they've provided, you can get a direct like tendril between each one. They don't function separately. Basically, they really help each other out, which goes back to edit your work and curate. Something super helpful for me that I found in the past was curate your work several different times. And what I mean by that is, if you want to go back to the 5x5 exercise, curate your work as if you were 5 years ago. Well, what does that look like? Curate your work who you are now. Curate your work what it would look like 5 years down the road. And if you want to even go further, like curate your work as if you weren't from this community. Curate your work if blank. Right. I just want to throw out another quick resource. If you are struggling with maybe making a canvas for yourself, I recommend going to canva.com. It's free. Let's start right here. Customize size. So if you're uploading a photo, you already know that in Add Media, when you go to image, it says minimum of 1200 pixels on the longest side. So that would be horizontal. So here, that's the width. So you just type in 1200. PX is short for pixel. And then here, if it was a screen or something, you can go 1080 or something, or you figure it out for yourself. Play around. That's how we learn. Lots of play. And then on the left-hand side here, if you click on upload, you can upload a picture of your work. So for example, just take that and there it is. So and then you can resize that however you want, and you can even add text at the bottom if you feel that's necessary. All right, let's do some questions.
Yep, that was perfect.
All righty. Questions, comments, concerns.
Hello, I have a question. Hi, Tasi.
Mm-hmm. Hi, who's that?
Hi, everyone. My name is Leigh.
Hey.
So this is more for visual artists. I don't know if you have the answer to this question, but would you recommend showing several photos of the same image? If I have a painting, for example, because I know if you see it as a whole, it might be different. For example, if you see specifically a hair piece, if I wanted you to focus on the hair, would you recommend uploading several photos of one painting?
What I would do is I would take the images that you have, the before, during, and after, and overlay it and cut it so that you can, and label it so you can see the process. That's one image. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're not having to divide it into three, that then they're like, wait, is this the same picture? Right? Whereas if you put it in one and you segment it and have a little process, oh, wow, that became this and is this, but it's all within that same image. So you're really honing in on the storytelling aspect of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
I just want to second that as someone who sat on a lot of juries. I wouldn't want to see 5 images of the same thing. I would want to hear a story. The idea of segmenting it into one thing is super useful, but at most it'd be here's the wide, here's a detail I want you to notice. I would say 2, because I want to see the breadth of your work, right? Don't keep me 5 images on one piece. You've made more than one piece, right? So tell a story. Every image should move your story forward and help us learn something new about you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been following your journey too. By the way, I'm rooting for all of y'all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Multi. My question is, do jurors read the caption or the title of images when they review them? And so for visual artists, should it just be the title, or is it helpful to add additional context as well in those titles?
Well, not if you're adding a lot of words trying to explain the art, that please don't. But a caption or a title, of course, yeah, that's very useful.
Great, thank you.
Titles tend to tell a story, as they should.
Yeah.
Additional information is let your work speak for itself.
Great.
Alicia said, would this be a space in which we could provide snippets of reviews of our works, or would you rather just see the work? Oh, yes.
I guess just to expand on that, obviously I wouldn't be here's a whole article, but if there's something in particular that feels like it encapsulates me as a person, as an artist, if like that just, I feel like describes me well, would that be something that people would actually want to see? Or do you just want to see the photo of me in the show? You know, of course I would do both, but like, is there a preference?
Snippets
you're asking a juror. You're asking the jury, right, Alicia?
Yeah.
In your application, not in this moment. Like, can we look at each other's cool work?
No, yes, I'm asking in the application.
Oh my God. I was like, let's show it. Let's go.
I'm not like, here, everyone, here reviews. I'm saying like, if I like put together in like one of my work samples, like a photo of me from a particular show, and at the bottom included like a snippet of a review that was said about that, would that be appropriate? Or do you just, would the photo just be enough?
Boy, in 6 or 7 years, I don't think we've ever seen someone put a snippet from a review.
Just because as an actor, it's like a huge part of marketing yourself is including those reviews.
Snippet. So,
can I answer that as someone?
It wouldn't move me, but there might be jurors whom it would move.
It would totally move me.
You can cherry pick.
See?
Review. If I were a juror. So I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a judgment call there.
Cool.
Yeah. And it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about like, oh, you know how I wanted to say is like, I was watching this comedy show and the guy, it's called Hamburger. And it really encapsulates sort of this idea of like, we all go to a shop to get a sandwich or your favorite hamburger, right? And it's made of the same ingredients that everyone else would get. But our approach to enjoying that hamburger is going to be so much more different because your palate is different than someone else's. So you're like, man, this tomato in here is like, whereas someone else may like, no, this lettuce is crispy. And so think about it in that way, like, who are you offering this hamburger to? And what are the ingredients? And like, know that these ingredients are going to shift and taste different to different people. So for me, like, approaching that from a visual aspect, how would I present a review of my work while still keeping it like nice and tight? I would say like one review, one photo, nice splash on there. And like Mercury News is our newspaper down here, right? So nice like splash on there, nice legible font from 15 inches away, whatever it might be, phone, like really review that. Because like I was going back, like, I think the thing that we learn, right? You can always do better. You can always find a better way to present something. If there are any writers here, one of the best things I think, and I've seen it online, is for example, if you're writing a script, the judges may not want to just look at a PDF of a page. However, if you have an opportunity to read that or have actors read that out loud and then have partial screen and have the text scrolling, it really gives a sense of dynamism to the work, to the sample. And it's in motion. It feels kinetic, and you're telling the story of like, look at this collaboration. I am getting a lot of other people to kind of move together.
Oh, I second that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I do want to note that we are at time, and I appreciate Tasi's generous offer to hang out and answer more questions. But anyone who needs to be done on time for other obligations, please feel free to go ahead and log off. So let me just take a second to act as if we're ending. You're welcome to stay if you want to. We are going to follow up with an email. The easiest way for us to do that is to reach you through Eventbrite, because that's how we have all of your information aggregated. So look for another email from us via Eventbrite, where we're going to link you to a folder that will have the samples that Tasi shared with you tonight. And I think we're also probably going to put the entire video up there, which will also be posting on YouTube. So there'll be a couple ways. You may not need to go back and rewatch this video. You might want to, your friends may want to, but look for that email. Don't ignore the Eventbrite email. Tasi also put together a Google form where he wants to ask you just to give him some very brief feedback about tonight's workshop and whether it was helpful, because we're still scheming and dreaming about ways to continue to support artists in the future. That link will also be included in that follow-up email. Okay. Any questions about any of that?
Before I leave, I have two short things. One, the help desk at Cafe, which is usually spot on and they respond very fast, has been down since 3:30 yesterday afternoon. So if you've tried to reach it. I didn't get an ETA of when it would be back up. There's an email address on the application. I don't have it in front of me. It's something like info@Weimers Awards, something like that. I am the lucky recipient of all your queries. And I have a lot of canned responses that I've accumulated over the years because a lot of queries are the same. But don't be shy about asking questions. I usually respond very quickly. And if I don't know the answer, I go to my contacts at Cafe. And when help desk is up, I get a pretty quick response. So keep the questions coming.
Yeah, and please fill out that. Thank you, Jeremy. Please fill out that feedback form, because part of that is I really want to get a sense of like, how can we move together as a community rather than siloed in within our arts? Because it's really challenging to have these like really healthy conversations about how can we move together and support each other in that way, and not just be like another like marketing thing, right? Like come see my show or come see this like exhibition, because that's hard and that's taxing and that's like, you know, that doesn't really build trust in that way. So yeah, and I'll always reach out if you have like, hey, Tasi, I have this thing that I want to do. Is there a grant? I might not know, but I may know someone who I could forward you to. And I hope that at some point you feel, if you don't already, empowered to do the same for anybody else in this room.
Okay. So thank you all for coming. We really hope this helps you feel more confident about your application. A couple of ways to stay in touch with us as we're progressing. You got 24 days. Set those clocks, you procrastinating artists. I say as one. But you guys are here, so you're ahead of the game.
Oh yeah, easy. That's right.
So feel free to log off now if you want to be done. Is anybody going to stay? Anybody want to ask more questions of Tasi? Yeah.
Communities as well as other either venue space or nonprofits, would it just be, I guess, smarter to apply as what your art form is, or as in like an idea of what you're kind of trying to do with your art form?
Honestly, that's going to change year to year. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because let's say that you commit to one decision and this year wasn't the year, right? Then you may feel like you betrayed yourself. Like, oh, I should have done that instead. But ultimately what's going to happen is you don't know, right? So a couple things. What within the realm of what you're doing presents the most challenge that you're overcoming constantly, right? So, oh man, setting up venues, easy. I could do it in my sleep. Probably not what is like challenging you, what's not like helping you emerge, right? Whereas like motivational speaking, maybe, right? Oh, it doesn't come easy, but I show up every day. And you know, there's this reward or this whatever it might be, and the result of that is this. I think that might be something worth investigating, as someone who's done a bunch of different stuff. Like Photoshop, easy, but I would never apply as a graphic designer or a digital artist, right? Whereas applying my artistry into community work, super hard. And that's as an example.
I just want to add something.
Yeah.
Like literally in the guidelines, Robert, they say be rigorous, like who should go for the award, be rigorous in their approach to creation and production, have a developing voice that reveals significant potential, and take risks and embrace challenges. I know a lot of what you happen to do is like you're a business person, you're an entrepreneur, as well as a performer, a curator, an event producer. They don't care how you use the money if you win. So you don't need to pitch them an idea. You're not trying to say like, I'm trying to put on this rad thing for Pride, or I'm producing a film. They don't care. They want to know who you are. What about your voice in our community do we want to support? Why is the world not as good if Robert's not out there helping make art?
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the commercial aspects of what you're trying to pull off.
Yeah.
You get that $5,000, you pay your rent. They don't care.
Yeah, it's unrestricted, right? Like, don't worry, there's plenty of grants that will ask you what it's for, but
yeah. You don't have to report. You don't have to make a point. You don't have to report back. It's your money.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't know what you got going on tomorrow morning, but walk down to a local cafe, sit there and think about like, or put yourself in a space where you can listen to yourself.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm actually meeting up with a person in the art scene who's actually doing a short film, and we're going to talk about filmmaking. So
I love it. I was also a filmmaker, right?
Sweet, yeah.
What do you think your performance, or what do you think your category would be in this moment? Like, what are you leaning toward?
My category is pose. No, I'm just kidding.
I love it. Pose.
No. I mean, that's really good. But going back to Tasi, what you're saying is, I think it's kind of driving me back even 20 years ago when I decided to give up comedy because I just had so much going on. And then I figured, well, maybe doing comedy with other folks and kind of the commercial comedy is not maybe where I should be. And actually doing a one-man show with being able to connect and collaborate with other either nonprofits or artists. Yeah. So I think that's my challenge, and what I'm challenging myself now, even with where I'm going in life.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to be able to show them that you've got the chops to do the thing from work you have made. They need to see that you've produced things that are going to help you achieve that goal. They don't care about the goal, but they want to know that you've got the talent to do a thing.
Yeah, I think going back to what I was saying earlier, like you got to remove that language of like, I hope to do this, or I'm going to do it. Because that for this one, it doesn't matter, right? It's like, here I am, Robert Parra, take me as I am. If not, I'll see you next year, right? Like I got more stuff, regardless of what I'm offered. Yeah.
But I just, as someone who does a lot of film work too, Robert, as you know, I don't think they're as interested in producers. They want the creative producer side of things. They want the vision, the artistry, the challenging norms of art. It's more that stuff from what I see that they've chosen in the past.
No, it's all helpful. I think in my mind, what I'm saying here is that it's going to challenge me for what I'm applying for on what both you and Tasi are saying, right? Instead of thinking of this, but really think of this. And that's the challenge for me, is because now I'm challenging myself from 10, 20 years ago
to
now bring that forward, taking the leap of faith.